We'll call the Pennington County Commission meeting for March 17th, 2015 to order. We'll stand for a moment of silent reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Hadcock.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next order of business is the introduction of new employees. Jessica?
Good morning, Commissioners. Jessica Love, HR Assistant. I have a few new hires that you guys have on the list in front of you and a couple from last month that weren't able to make it that are here today as well. So I'll let them come up and introduce themselves.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Joshua Satterley. I'm new with the State's Attorney's Office. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Jane Amiat. I'm the 4-H Youth Program Advisor for Pennington County.
Great.
Good morning, I'm Laura Johnson. I'm new with the Public Defender's Office.
Good morning, I'm Wayne Van Heisen. I'm new at the State's Attorney's Office.
Good morning, my name is Trevor Thielen. I'm new at the State's Attorney's Office as well. I'm a Deputy State's Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Sorry. And happy St. Patrick's Day. I see some of them do have their green on today.
Okay, the next item is to review and approve the agenda. Does anyone have any changes they wish to make to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Holly Hennies, Commission Office Manager. I would like to respectfully request that we move item number 21 up until after item number 19, please.
Okay, item 21 is moved up to between 19 and 20?
Yes, please.
Okay, any other changes? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as revised.
With the change?
Yeah. With
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda with item 21 moved up. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes, motion carried. Next item is the consent agenda.
For public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items: approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of March 3rd, 2015, approval of the vouchers in the amount of $1,473,053.76. Number 8 is to recognize and thank the volunteers for the month of February 2015. Number 9 is to acknowledge the order for organization and incorporation of the Dogwood Lane Road District as submitted by the Auditor's Office. And finally, number 10 is approval of the permit to occupy the right-of-way for the Black Hills Back 40 mountain bike race as submitted by the Highway Department.
Does anyone wish any of the items on the agenda, consent agenda, removed?
Yes, Mr. Chair, number 9 and number 10.
Okay, item number 10 has been removed.
9 and 10.
9 and 10. Okay, any others? If not, do we have a motion?
Move approval of the consent agenda with exceptions of 9 and 10.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Aye. Motion carried. Item 9.
Good morning, KJ Peterson, Chief Deputy Auditor.
Mr. Chair, the only reason I want that pulled off is I don't think it's proper to have a motion within a motion. This should be a standalone item.
The only reason the motion is added is in the event that, one, it would be pulled off and need to be discussed. It's actually listed officially in the minutes along with the order for organization that's attached. And the legals have to be in there as well. I don't know that we have included in the language when Karen records the minutes, a motion to approve the motion to, I don't think she puts that in.
I don't put, no.
Any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
So, Mr. Chair, I would move to acknowledge the order of organization and incorporation for the Dogwood Lane Road District effective for tax year 2015 and after with the following legal description, and I won't read that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Next item, item 10. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the reason I pulled number 10 is there's sure not enough detail there for me to make a decision one way or another, or a vote one way or another.
It's Tom Wilsey, Pennington County Highway. This is, let me get it organized here. Application to permit occupation, to occupy the right-of-way to allow for a bike race. It'll cross approximately 100 yards of our road between, on Sheridan Lake Road between USS 3, which is a Forest Service road, and the road to Reeder Ranch. This is the third year that they've applied for this permit in the same location. So I would, I guess they've had no problems with it, and they have the traffic control for when they're out there. So motion was requested to approve this application for permit to occupy the right-of-way.
So, Tom, the sheriff's department is out there doing traffic control during this race.
I couldn't make that a stipulation on it. Yes.
Well, yeah, because it says Mr. Bushing plans to contact the Pennington County Sheriff's Office to request traffic control for this event as he did for the last 2 years.
Yeah, he's been requesting it. That's the way I understood it. I believe Heine made it too.
Morning, Kevin Tome, Pennington County Sheriff. I'll check with our patrol captain, see if he's been contacted. I guess just for a matter of process, it would be simpler when they do the application, if we could be included in that process on the front side rather than show up here and say whether they have and haven't contacted us, because we'll be the ones out there doing traffic control to make sure somebody doesn't get run over or whatever. So if we can modify the process in the future. And I'll follow up to make sure that we do have traffic control out there during the event. But
So these permits, Kevin, don't come to you? They just come to Tom?
They come to me, and then typically they get forwarded to him.
Okay, so the last 2 years, Kevin, you guys have been there helping out, especially in this right-of-way of 100 yards where they're crossing road.
That's correct. I mean, Tom said we were out there. I'd have to check with our patrol captain. I don't recall if we were or weren't, but I haven't seen this particular permit, so maybe it's going to somebody else in our office. But if we could just fine tune that in the process in the future, that would help streamline it here, so.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Mr. Chair, I move to delay this until we have more detail and have the agreement worked out with, to me, it's a road safety issue and it's a sheriff issue. So I move to delay it until next meeting. Continue it until next meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Dan or Richard, since, I do have a question. Who's paying for the sheriff during this? Are they gonna pay for it, or is taxpayers paying for it? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Adcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes. Motion carried. So, in terms of detail that you might want on this, Commissioner Farabee, would you work with Tom Wilsey to make sure we can act on this the next time?
I will, sir, yes.
Okay, item 11. Pennington County comments requested by the United States Department of Interior for real property to be accepted in trust. Is there anyone here representing Pace Law? If not, just as a matter of information, we've had a number of meetings with folks from Pace Law and have been talking about details relative to law enforcement, emergency matters, things of that kind. And during our last meeting, it was indicated that the comment period had been extended for 30 days, taking us to May 2nd as a deadline for comment. There are a number of details that are still in the discussion stage. Does anyone on the commission have a recommendation on this issue?
Would be the motion to request the 30 days of comment, and after May 2nd, then bring this forward again to the next commission meeting.
Okay, is that your motion?
What would that meeting date be, sir?
I'm sure we would coordinate with all the parties involved. Jay, do you have any comments you wish to make?
So I understand the comment of Commissioner Hadcock. Did you want a commission meeting prior to the deadline?
No, I'd say after May 2nd.
Well, but if you want to know what the commission, if the commission has any desire on how they want to comment, I guess we'd need to know that before the deadline.
So what's your direction, Jay? How about that?
I don't know, the April 7th meeting or April.
7/21.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking, is that if you want to hear, if the commission has any input they'd like to share publicly on the issue, you'd want to know that and have that in comment form before the deadline. That's all I'm saying.
I guess I'd like to know the wish of the commission before I make a motion on April 7th or the 26th.
Mr. Chair, just as maybe a way to clear this up, I would make a motion that we discuss this on April 21st and at our second meeting in April and decide what our direction will be.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd make a substitute motion. Before I do, well, I guess I shouldn't discuss before, but my substitute motion would be that we should probably have a draft comment for the board done by the next meeting. It's April 7th. And then on April 21st, we should have it vote on the final comment. So my motion is to have a draft comment. You're going to need to appoint somebody to do that comment for next meeting, and then on the 21st, have a final comment for our vote.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, the motion has been made, and a substitute motion has been made and seconded.
And the reason I say that, what I gathered from our meeting last week was that our deadline is May 2nd, if we want to comment. So we should start right now with our draft comments. And I would ask that you appoint one or two two of us to make that draft, or provide that draft for next meeting.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so, well, I guess I think it is a commission decision to decide what direction we go. And perhaps we should discuss what that direction is, but how can we direct anyone to create a decision when we are still working on these agreements? I mean, it seems like in the next couple of weeks, we will be making more progress, and at the end of that time, then we could be more clear as a commission as to what direction we want to take.
Mr. Chair, if I might, and I understand Commissioner Troutman's concerns, but to me, they're two separate issues. The agreements, we'll work on those on an ongoing basis, but this is the comment about how we feel about the trust status.
So,
The only issue before us, I think, for May 2nd, is how do we feel about the trust status?
so Mr. Chair, for me, if we have an opportunity to work through these agreements and we know we're heading in a different a direction that I am supporting, then it is easier and I feel much more appropriate for me to make that decision. But if I don't know which way we are going in our agreements over law enforcement, emergency management, roads, that weed and pest type of issues, I'm going to have a different thought on what our response should be that's submitted, as opposed to the fact that we may be close to agreements or have agreements that make a difference in my decision.
Mr. Chair, the
Yes.
draft comments are what the board thinks as a whole, or all of our separate comments? Can you clear that up for me?
Jay, you probably will be called on to at least shepherd the comment process. How do you see this?
I'd have to reread that notice, I guess, from Secretary of the Interior, but my recollection was comments of Pennington County. I don't know that it asked for comments of each person that represents a department in the county. It probably typically comes from the governing board of the county.
Well, Jay's looking at that. I guess my view may be somewhat simplistic, but if you were to say something like subject to clear agreement in the areas of law enforcement, roads, et cetera, and a solid statement relative to the intent of using the trust land, then with that completed, Pennington County would not object. In other words, once we understand each other, we would not oppose if in the process of that, putting that together, we found areas of objection or difference, then that would maybe extend the period even further.
I'll give you real quick, I guess, what my quick opinion is. This particular letter was addressed to Governor Dugard from the United States Department of the Interior, so it was addressed to state government specifically, and ask for their input. However, towards the very end, it says, if any party receiving this notice, such as Governor Dugard, is aware of additional governmental entities, then please give them a copy and they can take it from there. So governmental entity I would take to be Pennington County, meaning the Pennington County Commission. But if you had this as an agenda item, certainly you would probably hear from your department heads to assist you in making the decision being from the county commission. In other words, not 15 different comment letters, one from each department. It'd be your comment letter after taking probably some input from constituency and your department heads elected and appointed.
So, Chair, George, if you could clear up what you mean by draft, because I think what Nancy said would take all that into comment and put it on April 21st. So can you clear up what you meant by draft to the comment period for me?
Well, let me start on the other end. If May 2nd is our drop dead date for comment, then we need to back up from that date, and the last meeting before that date is April 21st, if I'm correct.
Right.
So by that date, we ought to not be fumbling around. We ought to have a document ready to vote on or amend. So you back up one more meeting, that's next meeting, we should have a draft, a preliminary comment done. And it's up to us or the chair to appoint somebody to come up with that draft, if we want to comment. We don't have to comment, I guess, but.
I believe, George, that we can get that done with the staff, as Lindell says, by April 21st, just by putting this out there and sending emails for a comment period during that time and do what you're saying, George.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd feel a lot more comfortable having a document on April 7th, a draft document we can look at.
Okay, Jay?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Commissioner Troutman's comments have some real logical sense to them for this reason. We are, as you know, we have been actively engaged with a number of folks involved in this project, and have been working on all the agreements that Commissioner Troutman highlighted. And it does, I guess, appear to me that until we know where those are going, meaning final form, looks like we got pretty much a handshake agreement, we're just waiting for signatures. I think that should have a dramatic impact on what the scope and nature of that comment would be. Virtually no comment or very supportive comment, given what we've worked out. Or if everything fell apart, then maybe a different kind of comment. But until we get to that point, which isn't gonna be in the next week or two, I guess I appreciate Commissioner Troutman's comments on that kind of logical thought process and chronology of events.
So do we have another meeting with Pace Law before April 21st? I couldn't remember. Okay, thank you.
And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have one.
Well, Mr. Chair, at the sake of repeating myself, my understanding of this document is that this is notice of application by the Rosebud Sioux Tribe to have real property accepted in trust for said applicant by the United States of America. The agreements, to me, are a separate issue. They're a connected issue, obviously, but this notification to the governor of South Dakota and in turn to us was if we want to comment about the trust status and the trust status only, then we've got until May 2nd or whatever. We don't have to comment, but we probably should, and we should start on it now.
Okay, any further comments? And we should be focused on the substitute motion with our comments. If there's no further comments on the substitute motion, we'll call the roll.
Could we hear the substitute motion again?
Moved by Farabee and seconded by Hadcock that draft comments be available for the board on April 7th with final approval on April 21st.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Buskerud? Didn't hear that.
Did you get that? No?
Okay. Farabee?
Yes.
Hadcock?
No.
Troutman?
No.
Peterson?
No. Motion failed. We're back to the original motion. And would you read that one, please?
Okay, moved by Troutman and seconded by Buskerud to discuss this item on April 21st and decide what the board's direction will be.
Any comments on that motion?
Well, I would hope by that time, at least we have all the information from the department heads that are involved in this, so we can make a legitimate, honest decision.
Any other comments? Roll call.
Buskerud?
Yes?
Farabee?
No.
Hadcock?
Aye.
Troutman?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes. Motion carried. Next item is the Pennington County Housing and Development Commission interviews and appointments. And we have the chair of the Development Commission here, JP.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. We're delighted to be here this morning. Doug Wells, our executive director, is also here. So if you have any questions, we'll stand by. If not, I understand we have a couple of applicants, so appreciate your time on this matter.
Thank you, and we appreciate your time on that board. Okay, we do have two applicants, Carol Davis and Sherry Knowles. Are they both here? Okay, I don't know which is which. What's that?
I'm Carol Davis.
Okay. Would you wish to come forward and address the board, please?
Good morning. I think you have been introduced to who I am by my letter of interest, and I do currently serve on the Resident Advisory Board for Memorial Park Apartments. I have quite a background in real estate and development, and currently do work part-time for a local land developer and builder. And if it says housing, I'm interested. Simple as that. And I do believe that the area's affordable housing is a very critical issue within the area to maintain a standard of life for so many of the people of Pennington County. And if there is any manner in which I could be of assistance to that board, I would be happy to do so.
Does anyone have any questions for Carol?
Mr. Chair. Carol, do you have a specific goal that you might think would be worth pursuing on this board?
The specific goal would be not fully understanding what the board's authority and responsibility is. My goal as a person to see a way that I could help would be to identify various housing areas and to possibly really look a little stronger at the requirements for obtaining that housing and costs, et cetera, of maintaining public housing for Pennington County.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Busker, do you have any questions for this?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next applicant is Sherry Knowles. Am I saying that correctly?
Hi, nice to be here. I'm Sherry Knowles, and I'm currently a commissioner on the for the agency. I live in Valley View High Rise, served by the agency, and I guess I appreciate the purpose of having a spot on the commission for a person in using the housing program, and just as a go-between, because I have that experience of actually living there and knowing what the needs are, and I guess I think that's one of my most valuable assets.
Any questions for Sherry?
Mr. Chair, Sherry, I'd ask you the same question. Do you have a particular goal for what you think you might do on the commission?
Well, I see a need for more housing, and I'm just supportive of even though I have a lot of interest in the people who are in housing right now and making sure they're safe and maintained. I still have a heart for more housing because I see people on the lists every month. I see the numbers and the need, and so I'm pro-housing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Sherry?
No, Chair, I'd like to make a motion, if I could. I believe both of you are very qualified. But I'm going to suggest Sherry Knowles for the appointment. Thank you.
You're nominating Sherry?
What, yes, ma'am, or sir.
Okay,
Do we need a second? I don't remember how to.
no. I think we can just do this similar to some of our other elections, so to speak. Each commissioner just indicate which candidate they support. Start with Commissioner Buskerud.
I would support current member Knowles.
Hadcock,
Ms. Knowles, please.
Farabee,
Ms. Knowles?
Troutman,
Sherry Knowles.
Peterson.
Sherry Knoll.
Thank you.
You are reappointed, Sherry. And thank you, Carol, for being here and applying. Okay, the next item is items from the auditor.
Good morning. There has been public notice for this applicant for a retail on-off sale wine license, including Sunday sales, for the High Country Guest Ranch in Hill City. The application has been forwarded to both the sheriff's office and the planning office for review with no questions there. So we're requesting a motion for approval of this new retail on-off sale wine license with Sunday sales for High Country Guest Ranch.
That's my motion.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the license application for High Country Guest Ranch. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you,
Thank you very
Kate.
much.
Next item is Building and Grounds, PC Campus Expansion Project.
Good morning.
Mike.
Mike Cool, Pennington County Buildings and Grounds Construction Project Manager. Buildings and Grounds has continued to work on the process of closing out the Pennington County Campus Expansion Project, working with contractors and consultants. This is a very large project for the county, and it takes some time to work through the issues that crop up when associated with a big project like this. Currently, the county is holding $150,000 worth of retainage on the project. And the primary reason for holding this retainage was because of some concerns with some equipment in the energy plant, the chiller system that the campus is heated and cooled with. Through work with the contractor and consultants, we think we've identified our concerns, what was causing the issues that we were experiencing. It has to do with the transitions between heating and cooling seasons, and we've found a solution to the issues that we were experiencing. And at this time, Mike Peterson and myself believe it's prudent and the responsible thing to do is to release some additional amount of the retainage on the project. And so I'm seeking to release $100,000 of this retainage that we hold. As I've indicated repeatedly, Skull Construction and their subcontractors continue to work with us well in addressing any concerns that we have. We have no issues with them. As I indicated, until we understood what the problem was, we thought it was prudent and right to hold on to some of this money. And at this time, we feel like we can release some additional amount of it. So I'm seeking the board's authorization to release this $100,000.
Any questions for Mike?
Mr. Chair, have all these punch lists been completed?
We still have some items that we're having addressed but for the most part, nearly everything has been taken care of.
And Mike, how long is the warranty for? It's for a year?
The warranty on the project, we do have a 1-year warranty on it. Essentially anything that the project is a bonded project, so that if anything that was not completed in the project that was required by the project is still covered by that bond, so going forward.
Okay, so how much are we retaining from the bond? Is that the 150 you're telling us, or is there a different bond? This is retainage and there's a bond as well?
There is a bond on the project as required for public improvements in South Dakota. That is at the value of the project overall. So if there's anything that's left incomplete or not done because of some oversight or something, the contractor is still responsible to provide that work, and their bonding company as well. So going forward, their bonding company is held responsible to provide that.
So how long is that bond held on this project?
They have 1 year, a period of time for anybody who's trying to make claims against that bond in terms of.
And when is that 1 year up?
It would be from the date of substantial completion, which would be September 15th of last year.
And then the only retainage we have is $150,000. So if that bond is gone, we have only $50,000 to clear up any issues in the next few years that might occur. You're only going to retain $50,000 because you want us to release the other 100.
Yes, $50,000, and this is in regard to. We're just looking at any issues that we have unresolved from doing our punch lists and such to address those issues right now. But the intent is not to hold money if the contractor has completed their work. So
right. Why I'm saying that is if there's a lot of concrete issues that are already moving, cracks, areas, and those aren't cheap to fix. So if we have some issues and you have a bunch on concrete and it's only been a year, what happens if it's another year or two and we only have $50,000 retainage for concrete or any other issue that we have on this building? Is there any other kind of warranty besides this money that would clear this up? Because the bond is done in September of this year, right? And when I've seen other construction projects, if you're having concrete issues, if you're having issues with some of the project, that's not a good sign just to retain $50,000 is my bottom line, is what I'm trying to say, to clear up these issues with no other cash flow except for Pennington County taxpayers paying what we need to fix in the future.
Well, unfortunately, I think that some cracking and stuff is a fact of life in terms of construction projects, concrete cracks. It's something that we understand. There are some issues that the contractor needs to address that we're waiting for warm weather to. We feel that $50,000 is sufficient to cover the areas that need to be addressed, where we've had some slabs heave in terms of sidewalks that need to be addressed. But in general, we feel that anything that the contractor can't be held responsible for acts of God in terms of damage or wear and tear on the project. Those are our responsibilities.
So legally, how long can we retain the retainage of $150,000?
Well, until any work that it was required by the contract that we have identified has been completed. So essentially, it's the work that, some of this exterior work in regard to some heaved sidewalks and such. When that's completed, then I would say that we would need to release that retainage.
I guess in my opinion, I would not release more retainage until all the work is complete, and then based on what I've seen from us, well, this is a $17 million building. I would suggest, in my opinion, that we keep that retainage until all the work is complete. I mean, if you have light switches and things, that's different than concrete and slabs. The other question is, has all the subcontractors been paid up to this point that you know?
As part of our bond, we require for bonding, we require a payment bond and the term is slipping my mind, essentially a bond that produces, requires that, or a performance bond, excuse me, that requires that the work be completed. So the payment bond is what guarantees that subcontractors will be paid.
Okay, and you know that at this point, that the subcontractors all have been paid up to this point?
We have not gone, we have some official documents, final document requirements that we go through that will state that everybody has been paid as we go through that. But the subcontractors can still go back against the general contractor's payment bond to collect. They would not come against us to collect.
And they would go, and that bond is till September 15th for them to get paid, right?
Yes, they could do that, or there is a process, I believe, by state law that they could shorten that time period by the general contractor could advertise and let them know that they want to close that.
So Mike, I will probably say no, not because you haven't done great work and you don't do good work. I just think to be safe for the taxpayers until we are complete fully, I myself believe that retainage should be kept until all the work is done, or at least the substantial work with concrete and different areas that I believe the energy plant and everything is working fine. So I appreciate your work, Mike.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, so if I understood you correctly, Mike, what you said is that of the $150,000, $100,000 worth of work has been completed, and that you only have $50,000, that you are keeping track of what it's going to cost to complete the concerns that you have.
Yes, we are holding on $50,000 to complete any remaining items identified through punch lists or anything like that.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to authorize payment of $100,000 of retainage held on the J. Scott Construction Services, Inc. Contract for the construction of the Pennington County Campus Expansion Project.
We have a motion. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I know that, chillers are a big item, and we've had discussions with old ones that we've had, and so what I heard you say was you've identified the problem with the chillers, but I didn't hear anything that the problems.
Let me explain a little bit more in regard to the chiller. There is not an issue with the chiller itself. The issue is actually with how the chiller is receiving information about the system. It's a matter of the water that is flowing into it, the devices that are used are taking readings to verify that there is flow into that equipment. And the chiller system itself has built-in safeguards that will protect the equipment if there is no flow through the equipment, because it could be damaged. The types of devices being used are creating some problems in telling the chiller that there is always flow present. As we shift from heating to cooling, the flows for the chilled water or heating water slows down considerably, of course, because there isn't the call for it. So as that happens, these devices aren't sending the correct information to the chiller, which is taking understanding that information as not having flow into the devices and shuts down the equipment.
Thanks, Mike.
So, Mike, how is the airflow and thermostats working at this point? Have you had any other complaints from other departments from that?
As I indicated before, this is, a very large project, and there's always a shakeout period that, it's understood. It takes at least a year just to shake out a building and make the adjustments. So those are things that we will constantly be making adjustments and working with, but there's no issues that we haven't found that we can't adjust for. And
So we've gave all the money back except the $150,000, and we can keep that till September 15th to make sure the chiller and all the issues have been taken care of?
It is my opinion that we don't have reason to hold the $150,000, but I leave that to the board.
Based on the chiller and concrete and some other issues, I appreciate your comment, Mike.
Okay, any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I'm a bit uncomfortable with what I've just heard. There is still a problem with the environmental control system. Is that correct?
I'm very, very comfortable on what Mike has said. Mike Peterson, Pennington County Buildings and Grounds. I'm very, very comfortable with Mike has told you. With the contractor, it's been a small control issue on the chiller. Concrete is important, yes. A lot of the cracks that you see in the punch list are Mother Nature at work, concrete cracks. The stuff that is going to be repaired by the contractor are the stuff where it's upheaved and different things, and it's been documented. It's going to be taken care of once we get into better weather. I believe it's Pennington County, to hold this money, we're not doing what we should do by the contractor. They've been really working with us, and they deserve to be paid. $50,000's more than enough, and I'm comfortable saying that.
Well, Mike, can I ask you something? How long would that punch list and that concrete and that chiller, so you would be comfortable no matter what, to release that money, would it be a month that concrete and those things would be done? Or, I mean, is that a delay for $150,000 that we can make sure by fact that we have everything taken care of?
Even within the next 2 months, I see absolutely no reason to probably even hold that last 50,000 through September. We'll probably be in here within the month and a half, requesting to release even that, and the rest of it being on the warranty period.
I guess that's my point. If we're going to release it in a month or two anyway, based on all the punch lists, that makes me more comfortable, Mike. Not that they're not doing their job or you're not doing their job again, that I'd just like to see all the work completed. And again, it's a $17 million building, and to make sure there isn't any concrete heaving or anything in the next 2 months either to add to it. So I don't think a 2-month delay or a month delay, that also makes the contractors really want to get that work done because they want to get paid too. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any further comments?
Mr. Chair, once again, that environmental control system is up and running and no more hiccups.
Will there be more hiccups? Like Mike said, it's a big building. We're finding it starts at the chiller system, goes to the air handlers, right down to the office controls. But what we have experienced and what we're seeing is it's a well-designed system, and there hasn't been any bugs that we haven't been able, and they're small bugs, to be able to work out at this point. Most of this is computer-driven, and as Russ can tell you, if there's a computer involved, it's only as smart as the people working it. So
And that's why I'm uncomfortable.
I'm real comfortable where we're at. And the small control issue on the chillers, I believe, is going to accomplish what we've been working with so far, having issues with.
Mr. Chair, what I'm hearing is a software problem, and I'm uncomfortable with voting yes on turning the money back until the software is cleared up. I think we're still having software problems with the software for the county system, aren't we, Russ? Anyway, the software system we bought for the bookkeeping or whatever. Anyway, I'm uncomfortable with voting to release this money until we're comfortable, until you folks are comfortable that the software is working as it should.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment? You know, Mike Peterson, I really appreciate your knowledge of knowing how to heat and cool a building. You have created systems and worked with systems over all the years I've been a commissioner that have saved us money, that work well. And I really trust, I very much trust your judgment on this system.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I appreciate that, Ms. Troutman, but that's not
I believe
what
I'm
thinking.
Commissioner Troutman.
So, Mike, it doesn't have a trust factor with me. I think you do a great job. So that's not my issue.
I understand.
Thank you, sir.
I understand being new commissioners. I totally understand.
Thank you, Mike.
And it is a big project, and it is a lot of money, and we're coming down to the final stretch.
Thank you, sir.
And to not be concerned would be wrong. But working with the contractors, and Mike and I and the building committee are bringing this to you because we're working in good faith with them the way they're working with us. And to release this money now, I think is only fair.
Okay, any other comments on the motion? If not, we'll have a roll call.
Buskerud?
No.
Farabee?
No.
Hadcock?
No.
Troutman?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes. Motion failed.
Thank you.
Okay, items from equalization.
Good morning, Commissioner. Shannon Rittberger, Director of Equalization. You have several sets of requests for abatements before you. We'll walk down through them in groups. The first couple you have come to you from taxpayers. These are Black Hills Federal Credit Union and Gary McKinnon. Both of these abatement requests deal with buildings that have been removed from the property, demolished, torn down. One of them was before the assessment date, one of them was afterwards. Again, these are brought to you brought to you from the property owner, and I don't know if the property owner is here and wants to say anything.
Is anyone here from the Federal Credit Union? Come forward, please, and identify yourself.
Yes, I'm Kitty Gust, AVP Collections for Black Hills Federal.
I'm just kidding.
Do you have anything you wish to add?
I don't, unless you have any questions.
Any questions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve those two abatement requests.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Hearing none. Roll call.
Buskerud?
Aye.
Farabee?
Yes.
Hadcock?
Aye.
Troutman?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes. Motion carried. Silence is golden.
That's easy. Thank you.
Okay, next item.
The next set of abatements, and in fact, all of the rest of them, come to you from my office. The next set of them are 5 of them. Eldridge, Jones, Hollis, and 2 of them, one for the 2013 year and one of them 2014 year bookbinder. The Eldridge one is a mobile home that was moved. The owner obtained a moving permit. That's really immaterial. This is the same as the last 2 situations. The building is not there anymore. Jones, the property owner here requested, came to our office and requested a switch of the owner-occupied classification from a property that the owner had sold to a new property the owner had purchased. Our office...
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, can we take these one at a time?
If you want one at a time, yes, we can. So Shannon, if you want to start with item 3, or do you have a preference?
Well, just start on the top. The first one is this Ed Eldridge. And I think we should vote on that, and then go to the next, take them one at a time.
That's what we will do. Do you have a motion?
Oh,
On number 1.
now, before I make a motion, I've got a question about, this happened in structures removed in, if I may, Mr. Chair, February of 2013? 2 years.
That's correct.
2 years ago?
Yes. The abatement request is for 2014.
Structures removed 2 years ago, and this person should have gotten an assessment notice in last year at this time, about this time last year, right?
Depends on the age of the home. This might, and I think it was probably a registered mobile home, but in essence, the same process.
But he should have gotten an assessment notice in 2014 and should have reacted to it.
Yes, but the abatement can't happen until the tax bill is created in 2015. So this comes to the commission after the tax bill is created.
Once again, Mr. Chair, if I may, the assessment notice precedes the tax bill. And I've sat here now this is meeting number 6, and I've heard that, by golly, the person should have seen his assessment notice. Anyway, I'll leave that as, and the other question I have is, I think last meeting you said that on this application form, the blocks that are checked by your office.
On these, yes.
Okay, and this one is, number 2 is checked. Improvements on any real property were considered and so on and so forth. Why'd you check that block?
That statement says, "The improvements on any real property were considered or included in the valuation of the real property, which did not exist on the real property at the time fixed by law for making the assessment. This mobile home was not here on the assessment date."
So you're counting that as an improvement to the property as opposed to removal of a structure?
It's the same thing. The improvement is a structure.
The two we just acted on were, you checked block number 8, which was structure removal. Anyway, inconsistency, that's all the questions I have. I'll make a motion that we approve the abatement.
Second.
Mr. Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes.
The last two abatement requests came to you before, from the property owner. I didn't check anything on those. They came from the property owner.
Thank you, Shane.
The last two, you're talking about the Federal
Yes.
Credit Union?
Yes, we are on abatement requests now that I bring to
Yeah,
the commission.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes?
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes, motion carried.
The next one is Jones. As I started before, the property owner came to our office and requested a switch of the owner-occupied classification from a property that they had sold to a property that they had purchased. Our office removed the classification from the property sold, but failed to apply it to the new property. That was a mistake from our office. We should have applied it to the new property. The property owner did everything that they should have to qualify for the owner-occupied classification.
Questions?
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the abatement for Chadwick Jones. Any discussion?
I do have questions, sir.
Moved.
Proceed.
Okay. You checked subsection 1, correct?
Yes,
Can you tell me why?
because an owner-occupied classification could be considered an identifying entry or description or an extension of the tax, and it was an error on the part of our office.
Okay.
Anything further?
I do, yes. Subsection 1 has two phrases, identifying entry or description of the real property. Which of those, and you mentioned both of those, which of those two do you think are applicable in this situation?
I think both of them could be.
One more question, sir. This person, this was 2014 assessment, correct?
That's right.
Shouldn't this person have noticed the assessment notice a year ago and came to the Board of Equalization?
No, because this took place in February of 2014. A letter was mailed to the property owner. The property owner responded to it. The assessment notice was already in the process of being printed. It went out, not owner-occupied, but it was understood by the property owner that we would change that to owner-occupied, and we should have and failed to.
So the assessment notice this person got, received about this time last year read what?
Not owner-occupied. The assessment notice is mailed March 1st. We start printing, and we even mail before March 1st, but we start printing before that. The property owner has until March 15th to notify us of an owner-occupied classification. So the assessment notice can very well go out not owner-occupied, and there's a time period there where the property owner can respond back to us and provide us with the information.
Anything further?
One more time. This person had an assessment notice in his hand prior to the Board of Equalization time period passing that said non-owner occupied, and he came to you and you didn't follow through, or did he not come forward before the
Property
deadline?
owner notified us. We failed to apply that owner-occupied classification to the new property purchased.
Oh, no, he's a big.
Do we have a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I would move to grant the abatement, tax ID 25740 for Eileen Hollis.
Is there a second?
Oh, I'm
Let me-
sorry, I'm on the wrong one.
That's right.
I
Move
just
back up
noticed.
one.
I checked
We
it
did
off
have,
already.
we do have a motion on that one. It was moved by Buskerud and seconded by Troutman on Chadwick Jones.
We did that one, did we not?
Didn't vote.
Okay.
Thanks for keeping us straight.
Okay, let's vote on the Chadwick Jones motion.
Buskerud,
Yes.
Farabee,
Mr. Chair, I'm going to abstain until such time as we have some clarity as to how we're going to treat owner occupied. We can sit here and do this for meeting after meeting after meeting. Two individuals were denied for basically the same reason, and the reason said,
Okay, you have
I'm going to abstain.
noted your abstention.
Thank you.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes. Okay, next one is Hollis.
Hollis, yeah, this is another owner-occupied request. The property owner here, or the property owners, went through a divorce. There was a deed to change the ownership to sole ownership of one of the owners. Along with that, that deed was a certificate of real estate value. The property owner completed the owner-occupied portion of that certificate of real estate value to state that the owner-occupied classification should continue on that property. Because of the deed, the change of the ownership, we removed the owner-occupied classification. We should not have done that. The property owner completed that certificate of real estate value to state that it should have stayed the same. We missed it. This is essentially an owner provided us with an owner-occupied application, and we failed to apply it to the property.
Any other comments on this one?
If I may, Mr. Chair, same questions. I know it sounds repetitive, but once again, you checked subsection 1 for the same reason as last time?
Yes.
And either of the two provisions could apply, identifying entry or description of real property. You're standing by that?
Yes.
My next question, why didn't this individual come before the Board of Equalization?
I don't know.
So he gets off, and the two folks, Tillish and Mellon, they didn't come before the board. They're going to get punished. This guy doesn't get punished. This person. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Shannon, I have something. How do we tell on people, it almost looks like I'm not gonna say it, was removed in error due to programming changes with new tax software changes. George is making a good point in owner occupied. From what I've seen, I don't know, Shannon, maybe I just don't have enough experience on this, but how do we know if the guy is just making errors or the computer did it? And so we keep coming back with abatements, and some are saying computer and some are mistakes, which I understand mistakes, but it's confusing. And there's no 10-18-2, 10-18-, what are those 6 circumstances again that we are picking for each one of these? I mean, this is an error. Is there a statute when it's 1 through 6 for an error on a computer?
Yes, 10-18-1 subsection 1 is the statute reference you're looking for. The computer process here that we are or were working through in 2013 and 14 is when there is a transfer of ownership, we have to remove the owner-occupied classification. We then mail the property owner a letter requesting an owner-occupied application or some information. Making that process happen with our tax software took some time to perfect it. In this example, the property owner completed the owner-occupied application. It is the same as if the property owner brought that application into our office and then gave it to us, and we have failed to apply it to the property. The change of ownership is just the backstory of how this happened, but that is really immaterial. The property owner provided us with an application, and we didn't apply it to the property. The two other abatement requests that were mentioned before, we had no owner-occupied application on those.
So what's,
Okay, do you have something you might contribute?
If I may too, one additional, the owner-occupied statute that talks about who gets it, the eligibility is 10-13-40. And in that I don't know if it's on the one you're talking about now or the one just beforehand, but it was where the certificate of real estate value was filled out.
This one now.
Is it? Okay. And it just didn't get followed up on, I guess, is what you would say. And so what authority do we have to correct that? I would agree with what Shannon is telling you under 1018-1 subpart 1, but I would also point out that legally we have to do something like this because in the 10-13-40 it clearly says the owner occupant of transferred property which already has been classified may meet the requirements of this section, which is the eligibility section, by completing and filing the certificate of value at the time of the transfer. They did that. It just didn't get processed all the way through to do what they asked you to do. They did what they had to by law. Law says they get it. We have to find a way to give it to them or we're breaking the law. And so when I say that, the 1018-1-1, the abatement process, and you could talk to the auditor and the treasurer, the abatement process is the only process we know of that can effectively correct a mistake of someone who legally has that right and should get it. So here's a whole nother statute that I think supports us in doing what we're doing. We're doing what we have to do.
I appreciate that, Jay. because I was getting confused on some of this, being new for one thing, and then change in ownership and what happened to the change in ownership on those other people, and then we're calling this a error on due to programming changes. I just wondered if maybe some of theirs was, or the two that we were talking were errors on programming and not just, mistakes. So it just gets frustrating when you're trying to make good decisions when you're seeing different applications of it and then trying to apply it. And that's just going to come with the experience. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I might, there is evidence. You do have the CRV or the certificate of real estate value for this party?
Yes.
And the other two in question don't have. The ones that we ruled on or determined previously.
That's true.
The problem I have, Mr. Chair, with what is presented to us is statutes need to be harmonized and then some logic needs to come into the picture. The two folks that we disapproved abatement on, the owner was already there. The owner remained there. Just because it was a transfer of deed to add a party or take a party off didn't change the basic fact that in both the cases that we disapproved, one of those parties had owner occupied for years, and we took it away because every single I wasn't dotted and every single T wasn't crossed. We need to be consistent. Either we fix this problem or I'll continue to abstain from voting. And I think we need to fix the problem rather than keep treating the symptoms. And to me, the problem is in our office, our equalization office, really simple. When there's a transfer deed and it says exempt, how long does it take to go over or get on a computer and say, is there one of the previous owners still there? And if there is, that person shouldn't be punished. And that's what we did in the case of Tillish and Mellon. The owner occupied was there, we took it away.
Mr. Chairman, we've went through this, I don't know how many times. We've heard it all before, George. Let's move on.
Let's fix the problem.
There isn't a problem.
And,
Okay,
Mr. Chair, before we vote,
The process,
software was mentioned here, Mr. Chair.
process that you're talking about could at some point in the future be a separate agenda item. The agenda item now is to address these issues specifically. And we're on Eileen Hollis, 25740. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion.
And Mr. Chair, I didn't get a chance to previously, but right here in front of us, software, new tax software. How many months, years has this been going on? And I'll relate this back to what we just voted on the building, software. Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Buskerud,
Yes.
Farabee,
I'll abstain.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye. Motion carried. Next item.
The next two are bookbinder. They're the same situation, it's just the 2013 year and 2014. This is very similar to the Hollis. The comments you see there say that the problem stemmed from our tax software, and we have fixed that now. We are dealing with the past. But the tax software is not the issue, that's just an explanation of what happened. In this situation, the property owner applied for an owner-occupied classification, not a CRV, but actually brought us an application, and we failed to apply it to the property. The property owner did everything he was supposed to do timely, and we failed to classify the property as owner-occupied for the 2013 and 14 years.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. Is that for one or both?
Both.
Yes. I agree.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I sure hope we're getting to an end of these mistakes that get made every meeting. We go through a whole list of them. I hope we're getting toward the end of them, Shannon.
So do I.
Mr. Chair, if I might,
Yes.
how could this go on for 2 years? You know, this is the same person. How could this go on for 2 years? What's going on?
It's not that it goes on for 2 years.
Same person, 2013 and 2014.
The tax software takes a while to find the problems, and we have done that, and maybe we haven't found all of them yet. But we deal with it 2 years later because we can't create an abatement until a year later when the tax bill is created.
Excuse, Mr. Chair, if I might, this person went ahead and paid his taxes last year at this time for 2013. He paid his taxes, didn't squawk. No, I'm sorry, I just don't like stories. I just don't. And there's something wrong with this picture.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
may I ask Commissioner Farabee a question? So, just help me clarify here. What you're saying is this person paid his taxes. Well, it was incorrect, so are you saying we shouldn't correct the problem?
No, that's not my case. I'm saying this person sat there for a year.
Feels to me like that's what I'm hearing
No.
from you.
This person went ahead and paid the taxes, not under a protest or anything, just went ahead and paid them. And here he is over a year later, wanting to backdate this thing. It's 2014 I don't have a big problem with, but 2013, that's a long time to sit there with that extra almost $1,000 out of his pocket.
I'm happy to give it back to make it correct. I think it's appropriate to make it correct.
Mr. Chair, if I might, so then Commissioner Troutman, we come back, next meeting, come in here and say, we got a 2012 and 2013, 2014 jobber, and then we give it money back too? You know, where the hell's it end? Excuse me, where does it end?
There's a statute that tells when it ends, and I agree with Commissioner Farabee that this guy probably should have caught it, but there's also, I believe, and Jay can correct me if I'm wrong, there's a statute that tells how long they can go back and apply for an abatement for legitimate reasons. I think it's 3 years, but I could be wrong.
I believe it's actually at least 4, maybe even more. 10, 18,
I don't know, 4 or 5 years.
3 or something.
Not more than 5, either 4 or 5 years. And the abatement statute here that we're dealing with does say that the commission may grant this. It does not require the commission to do this.
Okay, any other comments on the motion?
And Mr. Chair, he's absolutely right. The statute does say may. Obviously, I would, everything being normal, I would vote for these abatements. You've heard me say before, if the citizen doesn't do everything just exactly right, he or she may get punished. But let the government make mistake after mistake after mistake, and we just let them go. Thank you.
But in this case, George, I'm going to have to say Shannon found something that was 2 years and is making it right. So he's actually helping the citizen in this case.
I bring these requests to the commission because we found a mistake, and some of these, maybe we found them before the property owner did. And because it was the mistake of our office, I bring it to the commission. The commission doesn't have to grant them, but I at least bring this to the commission for their decision.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion that may influence your vote on the motion? If not, call a roll.
Buskerud?
Aye.
Farabee?
Abstain.
Adcock?
Aye.
Troutman?
Aye.
Peterson?
Aye, motion carried.
The next two are both South Dakota Ellsworth Development Authority. We've had several of these. The Ellsworth Development Authority is a government entity. They are purchasing and selling property. In essence, the government entity purchased these properties, and when they purchased them, they became exempt from property tax. The abatement changes the tax bill for the portion of the year that it was actually taxable.
I'll move approval on both.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Buskerud?
Aye.
Farabee?
Yes.
Adcock?
Aye.
Troutman?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Items from the highway.
We'll see again, Highway Department. Item A, agreement for maintenance of Hawthorne Ditch facilities. Highway Department has entered into an agreement with the Clapperidge family for the past, as far as I can find, 15 years to clean trash from the siphons and racks along the highway, Hawthorne Ditch in 5 different locations. County agreed to maintain these with the Hawthorne Ditch Association, and this is an agreement to continue doing so. The agreement is for $4,000. Dean Clapperidge expressed an interest in entering into this agreement, and I'm requesting a motion to authorize me to sign the agreement to enter into a maintenance of the Hawthorne Ditch.
Move approval?
Second.
Motion and a second. Would acknowledge that Tina Mullally is here. She's part of our Hawthorne Ditch Committee. Do you have any comments?
How are you?
All right.
Good morning, Commissioners. Or is it afternoon? No, it's still morning. Tina Mullally, a member of the Hawthorne Ditch Task Force. I have a couple of questions regarding, you're saying that Clapper will be doing the maintenance
He'll be doing the cleaning of the inverts.
of
yes.
these five?
The 5 locations.
Five
that were shown.
locations? Oh, where's my paper?
Twilight Drive, Covington Street, Plateau Lane, Sprucewood Street, and Reservoir Road.
Right.
These are where we have inverts that go under the road or under a drainage.
And is there any reason why there was a problem with that ditch in the inverted siphon that had to shut down the ditch 3 times this last year?
Last year, till we got it cleaned, yes.
Okay, and who had to clean that?
I don't remember the company that did it, but we paid for it.
The county paid for it?
County paid for it.
Okay, and the county had already paid for someone to keep that ditch clean at those
Well-
particular spots?
What happened was rocks got into the invert and plugged the invert. This is to clean out.
Oh, I was
the-
understanding it was a 2x4 that got into that ditch.
Well, they pulled rocks out this size, isn't it?
Okay. So we had to spend extra money to,
Additional monies to clean that.
and is there, was there a reason found for those rocks to be put in there? How they got in there?
We don't have any way to prove how they got in there.
Okay, so there's no idea of it at all?
Well, the idea was kids were having fun throwing rocks into the ditch.
Okay. Another question I had regarding that is, does that, I lost my train of thought. You know, that happens. Does the Kapleriches supply all the equipment?
Yes, they come out and do the cleaning.
Okay, and how often are they
All.
required to do that cleaning? Is there
Every
any?
week or two when it starts to plug.
Okay, and is that only during flow time?
That's while it's flowing, yes. And then they pile the stuff there and we come pick the junk up.
The county comes pick it up?
They let us know when there's a big pile there and we pick it up, just like we would any debris along a road or anything.
Right, okay, and has there been any requests to try and find out if any of the residents along that ditch are causing some of this problems that need to be cleaned?
We haven't looked into it, but I'm sure they are.
Okay,
Because we've found areas where there's debris in the ditch.
yeah, I found some, I have actually personally walked the ditch, about 75% of that ditch, and I have found probably 3 or 4 residents that I personally believe, that are causing some of this problem. And I'm just wondering if there's any way that we could get these residents to pay for or be punished for the problem that they're causing, for taxpayers to have to pay for a cleaning of the ditch. Because if they're causing some of the problem, then all the other taxpayers are being punished. They're not punished, but they're spending money on something that just a few are being the problem for.
I say we send Tina to them.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that, I could set up a camera and verify. I know a lot of times the reason for it is that there's no way of verifying that they are the problem. And with motion detection cameras, and I know we've got quite a few of them, even as a private citizen, I would be considered a way of being able to bring down the taxpayer's burden by punishing the ones that are actually causing the problem, by finding that they are the problem, maybe putting out a camera of some kind during 1 year just to see how many times these particular residents are causing the problem.
Sounds like you have some things that your committee can.
Yes, and I know
work
we are
with
getting
highway
ready to
department.
meet, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
will be bringing those up at the meeting too, but I just kind of wanted to state that the county is paying for something that sometimes just the residents are causing, and, I benefit from the Hawthorne ditch, so believe me, I'd like to make sure that it stays running and stays clean, so, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. Why isn't this bid?
Because the Hawthorne ditch originally set this up with the Clapperidge family, and we just continued it. Because they do a good job for us. We don't bid it because they've always done it.
Mr. Chair, should we consider next year putting this out for bid?
Okay, we have any further comment? We'll have a roll call.
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
No.
Adcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, highway study.
Yeah, Highway 1416 traffic study. This is a project where we've got some STIP fund, surface transportation funds, that we are going to rebuild Highway 1416 through the Box Elder area. We're doing a study to determine if we can get by with 3 lanes or if we got to build 5 lanes through this area. This is basically step 1 for this process. It's on the county plan, highway transportation plan for construction in 2017. This is if we can get the plans put together in time. Cost for this study is $8,047.86. This has been planned to be within our budget for professional services consulting. I'm requesting a motion to authorize me, the superintendent, to sign the work order to authorize Felsberg, Holt, and Olvig to proceed with the study.
Any questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to authorize his signature on that contract.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Tom, you weren't around in those days, but is this because the state highway fixed up 1416 and then turned it over to us for maintenance? Is that why we're involved in this thing?
This would have been back in the 60s, they built this, yes. And then
No, it was
we ended
after
up with
that, I mean, it was a US highway, but
Yeah.
I don't know how we end up with maintenance on a highway.
I'm sorry, you cut out, sir.
I'm just wondering how we end up with the maintenance and reconstruction of a highway that goes through the town of Box Elder.
We have a couple of them, sir.
Okay, then I'm wondering twice why we are doing it.
I wonder
Answer
myself. I wonder myself.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
We lost him.
Buskerud,
Yes.
Farabee,
Yes.
Adcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes. Motion carried. Next item is,
The next item is BRO 8050, parent 66. This is a structure up on Rimrock Highway that we are looking to replace. We have to do a hydraulic study to determine the size of the structure that we're going to put in so we can start the design. The reason for this structure to be replaced is the substructure, the abutments have deteriorated to the point that they're going to be dangerous. This project is on the county transportation plan for construction in 2018. It will use some STIP monies, some safety monies also. And the cost for this study is $16,081.72. We have this planned for in our consulting line of our budget. I'm requesting a motion to authorize me to sign the work order and authorize Bros Engineering to proceed with the study.
Move approval?
Second.
motion and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, Tom, do you guys have like a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, or do you have 3-year plan on bridges, 5-year plan on streets? How do you pick and choose?
I have plans for structures out for another 10 years. Bridges, roads, we have a 3-year with extensions beyond that, but we don't have specific roads on some of them.
And how do you make those?
Any monies where I'm gonna use state monies, they're all planned,
Right.
out for at least another 8 years.
So how do you pick like my road versus mine? I'm not in the county, but if I was in the county, how would you pick somebody's road based on what? I mean, how does your priority list work on roads? How about that?
For replacement you're talking about, or reconstruction?
Yes.
Just our repair records on a road will be a big item. And condition of the road, traffic flows on the road, how they're changing over the years. If we have to beef up a road because we see traffic picking up on a steady basis, maybe it's only a chip seal, we decide we need to put a mat down to protect it.
So you don't have a list, it just comes in and you just base it on, you have a list of roads and you pick which one is the most damaged at the time, based on
Not so much the
traffic
most, I mean, there are several factors. Damage is one of them. I'm sorry, sound like I'm dancing around, but I'm not. Some of it is the growth of the city. That influences where we're gonna work. Or further developments out in the hills. That determines where we're gonna do some more work. Or if there's a confinement going in out by Wall or something, that would make an influence of what we're doing. These all come into play in our roads. And some of it you can plan for, some of it you're stuck with.
I just figured you had like a 5-year plan, and then if anything came in between that needed work or was damaged in between, that's, you'd put it
That throws
towards
your
the-
5-year plan, maybe makes it a 6-year, some of them get booted out.
Okay, John, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Do we have a motion and a second?
Yes, we do,
Roll
sir.
call.
Buskerud?
Aye.
Farabee?
Yes.
Hadcock?
Aye.
Troutman?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes, motion carried. Next item.
Next item, 2015 bridge inspections. We have approximately 61 bridges that need to be inspected in the year 2015. We split our bridges by the west half and east half in general. We have a list of engineering firms that we choose from that are approved by the DOT, the state of South Dakota, for bridge inspections. And we have selected Interstate Engineering this year for the inspections. They have done them for the last couple of years and they've done a pretty good job for us. Upon selection of the engineering firm, DOT put together a work order for that firm, and Pennington County needs to concur with the work order. The city of Box Elder and Hill City, if they have structures there, they will be able to utilize the same engineering firm if they desire. We recommend approval of the program resolution selecting Interstate Engineering of Spearfish, South Dakota, to perform our 2015 bridge inspections. Motion is requested to approve and have the chairman sign the attached bridge reinspection having a hard time talking here. The reinspection program resolution requesting DOT to hire Interstate Engineering to perform our 2015 inspections.
Any questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve and have the chairman sign the attached bridge reinspection program resolution requesting the South Dakota DOT to hire Interstate Engineering, Spearfish, South Dakota, to perform our 2015 bridge inspections.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call?
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes. Motion carried. Next item, portable message board.
Portable message boards. I have an agreement for purchase of portable message boards. We have 2 of them in our on our list right now that are old and breaking down. We can't get repairs for both of them, for them anymore. I am wanting to buy another message board off the Minnesota state bid. Bid is PCMS 320, trailer mounted message board with state contract is contract number 73384. I have all this on file at the office. I have already purchased one board because I could pick one up to see if it would work for us. It's a smaller board, and my staff found that this is great for them. We got more room, gives us less likely to get hit when we're up in the hills with it. I'm wanting to purchase a second one. The cost for this board is $16,764. I'm requesting a motion to approve the purchase of the PCMS 320 message board off the Minnesota state bid number A210(5).
Any questions or comments?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
It says, I have purchased one board and am requesting approval to purchase a second one. What's the difference between the two? Why are you requesting one and you just purchased the other one?
Because that gets me over my $25,000 limit that I can spend.
Okay.
And this is all planned within my budget. By state law, I can't purchase over $25,000 from a single vendor for a single item.
And facetiously says, with the upcoming Sturgis rally, we feel we need another one. So can we apply to the state of South Dakota or Sturgis to help pay for all the money they make at Sturgis rally to help pay for some of the expenses we have?
We have places, we set these all the time. Last year, we had one that kept shutting down on us. That's why I desperately needed one. The second one, we have another location we'd like to put warning boards out. That is the main reason I'm doing this. I don't know if we could apply for monies from the state. I could not answer that. I can try.
No, they'll tell you no. I already know the answer.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Buskerud, that's a good question, and I'd sure second that.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the purchase of a PCMS-320 message board from the Minnesota state bid number A210(5).
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call?
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes. Motion carried. Next item.
Next item, Valley Heights drainage issue. In early February, I was contacted by Commissioner Peterson concerning a problem with the drainage in the Valley Heights housing development. He'd been contacted by a landowner, Corey Dobbs, within the development. Let's put it this. We have a drainage that goes through this housing development, And they were supposed to put a pipe in to drain it out and have a detention pond within the development. To the south of this development is an old dump. We found out that it was a dump that was closed up in 1976. To put a pipe in, they'd have to bury it over 30 feet, so they didn't put the pipe in. And they'd had to dig through this dump to do it. This area was administrated, the plat was approved and administrated by the city of Box Elder. We are not aware of any follow-up inspection that was done when the development was built. There are several problems within this development. The original corporation does exist, but with minimal assets. Excuse me. Excuse me. We met with planning and zoning in the city of Rapid City to discuss this drainage issue and try to get some ideas what can be done. Before I can commit any personnel time or any other assets into this process, I have to get commission approval because I cannot be directed by one member of the board to do work like this. So I am requesting a motion to allow the highway department to continue working on this process. We have actually charged some time to it already, probably more than we should have.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to allow the Highway Department to continue work toward a solution in the Valley Heights drainage problem.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
I do. Do we usually go in city of Box Elder or any city and start correcting housing development issues?
This is out of the city of Box Elder. This is not within their city limits, it's just in their platting jurisdiction.
So they approved this plat, they let this contractor do their job, and now it's our issue.
Yep, this is not the first time this has happened to us.
So
Right.
we've cleaned up other people's areas and what, before?
I don't know if we have cleaned up any before. This is my first one that I've been involved with. That's kind of like the Big Sky area
So,
we were familiar with.
and we haven't done anything with that, but
Haven't
tell
done
them to
anything there
annex
yet.
in. And now.
All we did there was plow snow when we needed to.
So how much is it gonna cost for your time and your effort? And if you have to dig, are you digging a 30-foot pipe for them and
No,
putting
I'm
that
not
in?
gonna dig a 30-foot pipe, 30-foot deep ditch to put in a pipe. That is, I will not do.
I believe it.
I'm trying to help them find a solution to the problem. That's
So
all I'm doing.
if it costs money, are you coming back to us with that solution?
I am not gonna expend much money at all in this, personally, as a department.
That's the bottom line. It's
I'm not going.
taxpayers' money, not
It's
mine personally, but,
Taxpayers' money. I'm not gonna expend much money. I gotta have, if I go out and do survey work, I gotta pay my surveyor to do it. You know, that's, things like that. It's personnel and,
which is taxpayer dollars, Tom.
yep, I know it's taxpayers' dollars. That's why I'm coming to you to ask permission to do it.
I'll listen to the discussion. Hopefully.
Mr.
Any
Chair,
other questions?
I hate to ask, is this a road district?
There is a road district there, yes. I don't know how active it is.
How much are they gonna kick in? They're not paying you money, they're not paying you unorganized road tax, right?
I believe so.
Well, if they're road district, they don't pay unorganized road tax, and, anyway, that was my only question, sir, thank you.
So what's the solution, are you thinking, Tom? You
I
said
don't
a
know.
survey.
I'd like to take a survey to see what the area does there, the lay of the land. There is another road that was never built. It's Twilight Drive. And I'm trying to see what could be done. I don't know.
So when you say, hey, Tom, when you say that you're employed out at your place?
I'm sorry, you cut out again, sir.
Do we have a surveyor employed at Pennington County Highway?
Yes, we do.
So really, we're not paying out any money. I mean, you're gonna pay him one way or the other. It's just, he might not get some other work done.
That is correct.
Yeah, I would have no problem, I guess, with looking at trying to resolve some problem, but I think we have to be careful. We don't want to start fixing every drainage problem in Pennington County.
I don't know.
I might just comment to sort of put the history of this area in perspective. As Tom indicated, the plating was done originally under the Box Elder Authority and the 3-mile limit. And apparently there was no bond, all kinds of things that seemed to be missing or unknown. When the city of Rapid City extended their authority to protect the flight zone of the airport, they somehow took over the authority in this same area from Box Elder. And as I understand it, part of the lots in the original platting were sold for tax title. So we have houses built, a partial road district, 3 governments, along with the government of the road district. And the citizens who own homes there are county taxpayers. There are new homes being built to exacerbate the drainage issues. And somebody has to somehow step up and foster as much order as possible in this. And just to share with you, there have been several meetings between the city and our county planning and zoning people and the highway department, and there probably will be more. But this issue will not go away by itself. I'll guarantee it.
So why would this be any different than the Big Sky issue? This is a drainage issue. I believe theirs was road issue, not compaction. And why would we help fix this and find solution? And our solution was tell those people to annex into Rapid City. Why would there be a difference?
The difference would be whether or not the property was contiguous to the existing city limits.
This property is a couple miles from the city of Rapid City. It is close to Box Elder, but not completely contiguous.
And the city of Rapid City is not, it's in the 3-mile limit,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they would have built it, they would have had the contractor get there, they would have done the work. The city of Rapid City would have, all we would have done was the plating, right?
This was done through the city of Box Elder originally.
I think presently, building permits are issued by Pennington County. So, again, we've got quite a hodgepodge of government.
With no inspections.
With no
Which I
inspection.
see, again, is a problem. And then we want to go and fix this. I don't know if it's a precedent or not doing this. I do believe in solution, but I don't know if it's I'm looking, it might be a precedent.
Mr. Chair, maybe I can help a little bit. You know, we've done some things like this over the past, and really, we don't fix them unless the solution is something that we could fix appropriately with our work, and we charge for it.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, we're not knowing what the solution is, if I'm understanding you, Tom.
That is
You're
correct.
trying to find that out. And then depending on what that is, you'll move forward. If we come to a point where there's some work involved, we've charged homeowners before for that work or a road district or something. We've done that before. So I don't think we're quite at fixing it yet. I think we're just starting to figure it out.
We're starting to try to figure out what can be done. And this could take some time. That's why I came to the commission, because, as I said, one commissioner can't tell me what to do. The whole commission has to. And we want to if we are going to continue to study this, to try to figure out what can be done. It's going to take us a little while and some personnel time.
Okay, where are we?
Mr. Chair, I do have one question. When this was platted, was it one of those overlap districts where Rapid City was in 3 miles and Box Elder in 3 miles, or has Rapid City grown and overlapped? It's overlapped now, right?
Yeah, it does now. At the time when this development was done, the developer petitioned to have Box Elder be the plating authority. And it was granted to them.
But you don't know whether Rapid City was within 3 miles at that time or not?
I would guess they probably were, but I can't say for sure.
The reason I ask the question is going forward, I guess if you're out there in one of those overlap areas, you get to choose which city can lay rules on you, or and that's a question for us to discuss. And it's our territory to govern, so to speak. But if 2 other governing institutions or entities have jurisdiction, can they both lay on rules for those folks, or neither one, or we flip a coin, or how does that work?
That's a good question.
I'm serious.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Does the big guy get first dibs? Or how does that work? Good question. Yeah, I don't know.
Always some opportunities to improve the functions of government.
Yes.
Challenges.
This is just me trying to find a solution for a problem so this, what was his name? Corey Dodds doesn't lose his house, because the water came right up to his house last year.
Understand, but these are good lessons to be learned for the future. And
that's correct.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Buskerud?
Aye.
Farabee?
Yes.
Hadcock?
No.
Troutman?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is weed and pest.
Good morning. Scott Guffey, Pennington County Weed and Pest Director. We're getting a PowerPoint loaded for you. We have a new pest, non-native invasive pest showing up in the area. And prevention is the most effective and cost-efficient way to control a new invasive, whether it's a weed or a pest. So early detection, rapid response is always our preferred action. So Japanese beetle, how to get here. It's native to Japan, thus the name Japanese beetle. It was first found in a nursery in southern New Jersey back in 1916. It was believed that was brought over on some infested nursery stock brought over from Japan. Currently it's widespread east of the Mississippi River. Great Plains, it's starting to show up around the metro areas. Western states are being pretty proactive on trying to keep it out. It hasn't really shown up there yet. This is a map of where the current infestation lies within the United States. You can see the northeastern part of the United States is pretty much established. But as you start getting out west, it's not really found or established yet. If you notice Pennington County there, it's still in the yellow, meaning it's found through survey detections. hopefully by this year, or next year at this time, will be in the being eradicated column, and hopefully in a year or two will be eradicated. You know, a number of the counties out west where they've actually successfully eradicated it. So why is it a concern? It damages turf crops, ornamental and garden plants. Damage is done both in the larvae stage and the adult stage. An APHIS pamphlet states Japanese beetle has become a serious plant pest and a threat to American agriculture. The adult will feed on over 300 species, nursery stock, ornamentals, crops such as soybean and corn, and then the larvae will do major damage to turf grasses. A flyer from the Department of Ag out of Oregon rates it as the most serious pest to turf grass. USDA APHIS estimates that over $46 million is spent annually on controlling Japanese beetle. So here are some of the preferred hosts by the adults. You notice roses there, corn, raspberries, grapes. We're starting to get a number of vineyards show up out in western South Dakota due to the popularity of the winemaking out in the hills. So that pose a threat to their livelihood. Some of the trees that are affected, a number of the ornamental trees that are found in Rapid City and the metropolitan areas. Here are some ones that are resistant. I show this. Notice pine is on there, so this won't compete with the mountain pine beetle on trying to take out our pine, so that is a good thing, I guess. Natural flight, it says 1 to 5 miles. That's kind of deceiving. They're actually a poor flyer, but when aided, when the wind pushes them, they can go up to 5 miles. The way it spreads long distances is it hitchhikes, it jumps on, a mode of transportation, and then it's moved long distances and then shows up. The other way is through nursery stock, bald and burlap trees that have infested soil with them, moves it that way, or else through infested soil on sod. Most of the trees and stuff that are shipped west are treated prior to shipment, so it doesn't move the beetle with it. And currently South Dakota has no quarantine or regs on sod. So what do they look like? They're a pretty good sized beetle. They're real vibrant as far as color, shiny metallic, usually green, sometimes brown. You can see that towards the head it's a green, and then the wings are kind of a bronze metallic, and then it's got these white tufts of hair towards the back. The grub or the larvae is similar to elder larvae that's found in western South Dakota, the June bug and the European chafer. The life cycle, it's basically a 1-year life cycle. It overwinters as a grub, and then it pupates out in the summertime. As adults, they'll mate, lay their eggs, and the adults will die after they've mated, and then the grubs will overwinter again then. So what's the activity been in South Dakota? In 1987, Department of Ag started their Japanese beetle adult surveys. 2006, they started finding a noticeable population down in the North Sioux City area. In 2009, they noticed it had moved up towards Sioux Falls. In 2013, they started finding positive traps out here in Rapid City of concern. And then again in 2014, they did. So obviously, we're starting to have a reproducing population. Here's kind of a map of where the survey's been done last year. If you notice in the southeast part of the state, down in that Sioux Falls, I-29 corridor south towards North Sioux City. They've pretty much have considered it established down there. If you notice those trap counts down there, those are the numbers next to those dots. You know, that down that North Sioux City area, they're getting trap counts up to 1,000 per trap. So that's obviously a high population rate. It's starting to show up and becoming established in Brookings and the Watertown area. Aberdeen, it's starting to show up, but they're taking steps to try to eradicate it. If you look at the rest of the state, it's found, but it's usually one or two hitchhikers, so there's not considered an established population. And then you get out towards Rapid City and Pennington County. There's been, it's considered in the process of eradicating, so we're trying to get that off. So we don't turn into a purple county, I guess. So where's our problem area out here? This is the St. Martin's area, kind of northwest of town. And it's believed how it got there was the Good Samaritan Society is starting a retirement community out there, and they've done a lot of development out there. They brought in some trees from a nursery out of Minnesota, and the nursery stock itself was treated, but it's believed that the year they brought those out, it was kind of a warm spring, and those adults emerged early, and they were in the truck that brought them out with the trees, is believed how it got established out there. So, and these are the trap counts that Department of Ag had set out, and you can see, you know, our numbers aren't great, but they're of concern. I mean, there's one there with 45. It's a far cry from the 1,000 that they're getting down in North Sioux City, but it's isolated enough right now as to where we could go in now and hopefully effectively eradicate it before it gets established. So what's our response plan? The Pennington County Weed and Pest Board has requested that Japanese beetle be added to the locally declared pest list. That goes to the South Dakota Weed and Pest Commission where we make that request. And I'll talk more about that here in a second. We've kind of formed an informal working group that consists of the county, state, city, and then also the affected landowners out in that area. Pennington County Weed and Pest will take over all the survey activities in the city to make sure, and in the area, to make sure it's done in a consistent manner. All the affected landowners out there have agreed to have a larval pesticide application done by a local commercial applicator. Pennington County Weed and Pest will cover the cost of that application. It's not going to be a high expense at this time. We're looking at maybe 4 or 5 acres that we're going to treat. It's just the sodded turf that's out there, and it's about $100 an acre cost. So hopefully around $500. If it gets more than that, the city will kick in too, they said. So that's kind of where we're at and how we got there. Any questions on the beetle itself? I come in front of you today to ask for signature and support on our listing. Normally, I don't ask for the commission support when we're listing a weed or a pest. Since it is a new pest being listed in South Dakota, it has to go through a rules hearing. And at the Weed and Pest Commission on February 18th, when we submitted the paperwork and they had the initial discussion, South Dakota State University, who sits as an advisory member on that commission, came out against it. I included 2 papers there on their reasonings. I believe it's invalid, their reasonings, why they're against it. Dr. Tillman says the amount of damage caused by Japanese beetle in South Dakota does not warrant classifying it as a declared noxious pest. Well, we have history to showing that there's over $430 million spent annually on controlling this pest. So I say just for that fact that it does, why take the chance of having it established, especially out here out west? She also says that it naturally migrates. Well, we got a long distance here from where it's established out in the Sioux Falls area to western South Dakota, and there's a lot of unsuitable habitat for it to travel on by itself. So the only way it's going to show up here is by hitchhiking. So if we're vigilant on it, we can jump on it and hopefully eradicate it out of the county. And then Mrs. Bachman's comment from Extension is insect can be managed with pesticides, but since that is not a palatable option by many homeowners, she's against it. Well, if you look at statistics, landowners put out 3 to 4 more times amount of pesticides per acre than farmers do. So whenever I have a homeowner call me up on a pest or whatever is causing it, they want to know what it is and how to control it. And pesticides is the most effective way. So if we sit around and do nothing in 10 years, it's become established, there's going to be a lot more pesticide use than what there would be right now. And the way we're going to treat it right now is we're going to go in early with a larvicide. We'll treat early this spring. It'll have residual through the whole summer, so we're not going to affect those pollinators, the other thing she's concerned about. So their reasonings against it is invalid in my opinion, so I'd appreciate if you guys would sign that letter of support in case there is some more opposition, but I'm hoping this will pass, but I fully anticipate that SDSU will come out against it during the hearing. And I'll be down at the hearing and I'll provide more in-depth comments from the weed board.
Any questions or comments for Scott?
Well, Mr. Chair, I sure do. Have you been in contact with the counties down in the southeast? Are they opposed to what this PhD is saying?
You know, I don't know what they're doing down there. I'm kind of disappointed in the state. You know, when it first showed up here in Sioux Falls, you know, they should have taken steps and added it to the state pest list, but they didn't. They just kind of just watched it grow. And I asked them what they're going to do now that's out here, and they said, well, we'll just continue to survey. And it's like, well, where's your follow-up? You know, it's early detection. They've done the early detection. Where's the rapid response to get it under control? So I guess we're, as a county, stepping up and taking steps to try to eradicate it out here.
It looks to me like there's, what, 4 or 5 or 6 counties down there that are heavy infested, and you know, you think they'd be clambering all over this thing?
Yeah, because there's the Dakota Dunes. There's like a championship golf course down that area that's being heavily infected. That's I know that's costing them a lot of money. And I know some of the other counties that are close to there are concerned, like Lake County where Madison is. I talked to their city guy, and he's definitely concerned about it.
I think another question, sir. This 4 or 5 acres, is it all contiguous or spotted or?
Pretty much, they've done quite the development out there, and it's kind of there's townhouses out there, and then some individual housing that where it's sodded, where the new sod is. So it's pretty much contiguous. So we're hoping all those beetles are contained within that turf grass, and by spraying that turf grass, we should be able to get the majority of them at the larvae stage.
And you've asked some of the owners, and they're not
opposed
to?
It's basically it's the Good Samaritan Society, St. Martin's Monastery, and then the diocese out there, and they're all on board with treating it. So.
Okay, and one last question, sir. You say the pine trees and spruces are resistant to the. Where does that come from? The same PhD from the school? SDSU?
No, this came from USDA APHIS. So.
Okay. Well, if they're truly resistant, the pine, we ought to adopt that, whatever that is, that these bugs or the trees do to these bugs.
Yeah, really.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Buschrood,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock. Aye. Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes, motion carried. Next item is the long-eared bats.
Okay, the second item I have for you today, back in December, the board submitted some comments against the potential listing of the northern long-eared bat as a endangered or a threatened species by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Well, it looks like the track's being laid that possibly could be listed. Our concerns is the effect it would have on the logging activities within the Black Hills. But kind of a silver lining, or I guess a runner-up prize, is they're considering a Section 4D with the listing. And with that, it would exempt logging activities from being disrupted, I guess, if it is listed. Ben Woodkeek requested that a form letter be filled out by as many people as we can. He is in the audience today if you have any additional questions on it, but I guess we're just here today requesting your signature on the form letter that he had submitted.
Ben, did you want to address the commission?
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Ben Woodkey. I'm the Programs Manager with Black Hills Forest Resource Association. Just to back up a little bit, you're likely well aware of the history with this. It's been in the newspaper a little bit as well. Back in October of 2013, the Fish and Wildlife Service proposed listing this species as endangered due to the effects of white nose syndrome. It's a fungal disease that's decimating the bat in certain portions of its range. In the Black Hills, we do not have white nose syndrome, and we actually have what they consider to be the most abundant population in the western portion of its range. The maddening part about this is that when they came out with the proposal to list it as endangered, forest management was one of the activities that got thrown under the bus a little. And forest management has no effect on white nose syndrome, and most of the science points to it being very beneficial for the species. It's been an uphill battle for the last couple of years, but just recently in January that came to fruition, and the Fish and Wildlife Service proposed a 4D rule. It's a rule under Section 4D of the Endangered Species Act that allows them to exempt certain activities from any prohibitions on take. The way that they did that was they split the country kind of into two. One part, the area affected by white nose syndrome, the other part not affected by white nose syndrome, which includes us. And the 4D rule is very beneficial to us. It smiles upon forest management activities in the Black Hills and gives a carte blanche exemption for take with forest management activities here in the Black Hills. While this rule is not perfect, it's critical that they issue this rule at the same time that they come out with any type of threatened listing. And by issuing it at the same time, it will allow us to continue taking care of our forests, continue logging here, and continue supporting the communities as well, which is why we have asked others, including the county, to sign on to the letter of support for the 4D rule from the Fish and Wildlife Service and ask them to list it as threatened instead of endangered with the 4D rule that exempts forest management activities from take.
Any questions for Ben?
Yes, sir. So the only limited activities, or the activity that the long-eared bat in where we're at is logging. Any other activities have not been excluded or included in on that?
A myriad of activities have been included as threats to the northern long-eared bat, again, none of which really have any effect on white nose syndrome or much less the bat. But most resource utilization activities, including mining, wind generation, even solar and road construction, have all been listed as threats from the Fish and Wildlife Service. We are a trade association representing forest products companies in the Black Hills, so that's our main fight.
The caves have been shut down for a time period. Forest Service has been proactive on this, and they shut the caves down for a certain part of the year to try to prevent the spread of white nose. So there's been some proactive steps. So that would probably go on for sure, I'd imagine, regardless of the listing.
Mr. Chair, just to comment, I know it is also, the timber industry is very important, but also we have spent so much time and money on doing things to control mountain pine beetle, to make our forests healthier with proper thinning, to minimize fire danger from overgrown forests. And this jeopardizes all of that work. It isn't just the industry that will be affected, although you're part of the solution to all of those, but it will definitely make any of those activities much more difficult, and it'll damage the forest even more. And then that leads to our economy, our tourism, enjoying the hills as we've known them. So it really had a far-reaching effect if it had been declared endangered.
You're exactly right, yes.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I might, the Forest Service locally
Supporting this?
is where on this?
As a federal agency, it's very difficult for them to come out
so that's
pro
what you'd say,
or
yeah.
con,
Yeah.
but they have submitted comments on the proposed listing, and they've also submitted comments on the proposed rule under Section 4D, generally very, very favorable of not listing it as endangered and favorable of having a 4D rule come out.
Okay,
And
thanks.
Mr. Chair, also to help you with the answer to that, the Black Hills National Forest Advisory Committee has prepared a letter supporting the 4D, and that was submitted through the forest supervisor, Craig Bobzine. So, I mean, they did what they could to get the proper support.
Understand, thanks.
Anything further? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion for the Board of Commissioners to submit a letter in support of the 4D and authorize your signature on it.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Scott, do you have a draft letter here?
Yeah, Holly should have, that should be the one in front of you, I believe.
It's in there. Yeah, it should be, anyway. I'm saying that I saw it.
If not, we'll get one to you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, right there.
Any concerns with the content of that letter by anyone? I think it basically says what we've been saying. Any discussion on the motion?
I guess I'm not totally understanding. So the 4D is the listing to exempt logging of the northern-eared bat, so it goes on, so it's going on the endangered species with the 4D exemption on it, which is for logging, but it's not for those other activities.
You're partially correct there. To have a rule under Section 4D, it must be threatened. It cannot be endangered. So that they need to reverse their original proposal from endangered and designate it as threatened, and concurrently issue a rule under Section 4D. As the rule that they proposed in January does only cover forest management activities, and that's primarily because of the broad library of science that supports forest management as a key piece of improving habitat for the bat. And the Fish and Wildlife Service has acknowledged that, and that's why they're issuing this 4D rule, or trying to. The big caveat here is that when they propose this, they're getting a tremendous amount of pushback from other groups who would like to see all activities just ceased with this.
And maybe, Mr. Chair, just to make that a little clearer, Ben, what he's saying is that there are groups who want to stop any kind of timber activity within our forests. So they're using this as a way to do that. And they're supporting declaring the bat endangered rather than threatened. So, that's pretty critical.
Yeah, ideally, it wouldn't be listed, but this is I guess, a consolation prize that it goes on as a threatened list, but with the 4D listing, so it allows us to continue to do our forest management activities uninterrupted, basically.
So we're supporting your forest activities, but we're not supporting the other people that, again, that are the others on this list am I saying that wrong?
Well, I
Am I not
think there's
understanding?
two ways to look at that. I mean, I'm not asking the commission to not support any other activities. The way that the Fish and Wildlife Service proposed this rule, it only covered forest management activities, which would be logging and caring for the forest. All other resource activities were not part of the proposed 4D rule. So we're asking the commission to support the 4D rule that the Fish and Wildlife Service issued.
Anything further?
Did you find your copy of the letter?
No.
I didn't know we were supposed to go over these. I thought you were kind of on your own.
And I apologize for that.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Thank you. Okay, next item is item 18.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a complaint about, I think as you probably have the information. And I thought maybe we should take a look at our policy on county vehicles that have been driven home. And after talking with Holly and looking at it, I don't think anything really needs to be done with the policy. It looks all right to me. I think what I would be looking for is to disseminate that policy to all the departments that take vehicles home, employees take vehicles home, and reinforce that we will be looking at this policy and what's going on with it. But as far as the reason it's on the agenda is in case it needed some revision, and I guess I don't see any revision that's needed. I think just some education, again, would probably do the trick.
Okay, appreciate that, Commissioner Buskerud. Does any other commissioner have any thing to offer that might differ from what's already been said? If
So
not,
I guess I don't really need, I'm not looking for a motion or anything. I think it's a policy already in place and I can talk with Holly about distributing it. If she probably already has, I don't know, to the departments.
okay, appreciate that. Any further comments by any of the commissioners? I take that to mean you agree with Commissioner Buskerud, and I will move on to item 19, which is Commission Office Manager.
Okay, what you have in front of you, Commissioners, is the 2015 Memorandum of Understanding between SDSU Extension and Pennington County. We just received this from the state. I have reviewed the contract. It is all in order, and we're just requesting your signature at this time.
Move approval of the SDSU Memorandum of Understanding 2015.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call?
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Peterson.
Yes, motion carried.
Item 19B is a continuation from our last meeting, which is an update on our policy and procedure for the intent to conduct bingo, raffles, and lotteries. I did redo the policy and the form according to board direction from the last meeting, up for your discussion at this time. It's very basic. It's just a standardized form now. Procedure would be the same as it always has been. We put them on the agenda, bring them in front of you, and you as the board have the right to object to the notice.
Okay. Discussion? Commissioner Hadcock, I think you brought this forward, did you not?
Yes, and based on what everybody said, they wanted a simplified version, so Holly went through it. And I think it's pretty simplified. It's, I'll just say again, if this is what the commission wants, it's better than nothing for me. But I do play bingo and I do see problems, and I think we could be a little bit more extensive, but I guess if this is what we have, I appreciate Holly's work on it.
I think it's good.
At least we have a policy.
Okay, so what's your wish? Do we need a motion or?
To approve, please, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve if I.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, discussion? Roll call?
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Hadcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes. Motion carried. Next item is item 21, which was moved up.
Yes, and at this time, Treasurer Janet Saylor would like to talk to the board about Senate Bill 1.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Janet Saylor, Treasurer. As you are all aware, Senate Bill 1 has been sent to the Governor's office, which increases the vehicle fees, the excise tax, and that the law goes into effect on April 1st. However, yesterday, we received some information from the Division of Motor Vehicles, and because there is a commissioner meeting, I know this week in Pierre, and some of you will be going, I wanted to make you aware because there's going to be some discussion, I'm sure, on this, because the county treasurers are what we would say in an uproar right now. On this, it says that if we have a May renewal, if we have somebody whose license plates expire in May, I'll use Commissioner Hadcock, and she comes in today to renew her license plate. The head of the Division of Motor Vehicles has told us that we need to manually calculate what she owes us and charge us for that renewal prior to April 1st. We also sent, we've talked to her on the phone, we've sent letters. We did get a response, one of the treasurers this morning, telling her that we understand it's an emergency clause and that it will be in full force effective on April 1st, which at the time this morning when this email went out, the governor had not even signed this bill. This bill is not law at this point. She responded back to us that when we told her we weren't going to be doing this, that if a treasurer were to start charging the increase to license fees before the statute itself goes into effect, we would get creamed. Her response was, "That's fine with us. Thanks for letting us know. You also have the right to delay doing any May renewals until April if you choose. It's your call." That is not true. The law says, and it's very specific, that you have 90 days to license your vehicle prior to the expiration date. March for May renewals is within that 90-day period. She says, "I don't know how many people will try to renew in the next 2 weeks, but hopefully not a lot, so it isn't much of a revenue loss to the counties." That was their whole point of doing the emergency clause, more money coming in. Well, I know Pennington County is not opposed to making more money, but the fact of the matter is, you cannot charge people something that the law does not say you can charge. So when you go to Pierre and you hear this discussion, that a lot of the treasurers who are having commission meetings today are at the commissioners' meeting doing exactly the same thing that I am doing, stating we are refusing to do this. It does not follow the law. And we will not increase on any of our taxpayers until the governor signs that bill and it becomes effective in law on April 1st of 2015.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I got a question for Janet. I don't know the answer, but maybe you do. It depends on what the law states. Does the law state that you'll pay the additional money on the date that you renew or on the date that the renewal must be done? There's two different dates. So, just because if I come in today and renew my license that is due April 1st, is today the day I renewed the license, or it's really not, my renewal isn't effective until April 1st?
The day that you do your renewal, Ron, is the effective date, and it will carry it over to April the next year. Yours would be January. So you can renew it 90 days prior just like it's been done every time they've done an increase. The 2 increases they did, the July people would come in here as soon as they can renew in May, just to beat that increase. And while I realize DMV is under new management, that's fine. The law still is not in effect. It's very specific. The legislation says April 1st. So.
But does it
what's
say
your
for
question?
renewals that are due April 1st?
I do not think so. Because there are no renewals due April 1st. We don't renew, we don't have any that expire in the month of April because of tax month. The next renewal period is May, Ron, so.
Yeah, I
all
mean,
the-
I'm not arguing with you.
No.
Whatever your treasurers want to do is fine with me.
We just feel that we are making people pay something that is in effect not even a law, that we don't have the authority to do. And it could in retrospect get the county sued.
Thank you, Janet, for bringing this forward to us and keeping us in the loop. You have been very good at being a treasurer and on many things that you have done, and this is pretty informational.
Thank you.
I have a question, sir. So if I heard you right, you say those folks that are due in May and June can beat the government to the punch and renew before the 1st of April. Is that what I'm hearing?
Not the people in June.
You said 90 days.
90 days is March, April, and May.
May 1st.
Per state statute, that's how it goes. June people are not going to get this break.
But the May folks could come in and save a few bucks.
That's correct, and we have people renewing all the time,
Okay.
early,
Okay.
all the time.
So we're asking them to come in? I'm kidding.
I'm not asking them to come in. I mean, they all read the paper, they all know what it says.
I'm just teasing it, Janet.
You know, my only thing is I want those of you going to peer to know that we're not gonna do this.
I don't like to be bugged, but how about calling us tomorrow and
Because-
remind us?
News media may call you, who knows?
Okay.
Okay?
So is this the kind of thing that at some point the Attorney General or someone steps in and says, okay, you folks are arguing different points of view, the governor hasn't signed it yet, and so on, and clarifies it, or is this
I don't want to speak out of turn, Lindell, but I do know that there is a county that was going to contact the Attorney General's office this morning
so
with one of their legislators.
So this is something we stay tuned in on.
That's correct. And I don't think that the Attorney General is going to tell us to
Break the law.
break the law.
Okay. Jay, do you have anything you want to offer, or? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Looks like we're back to item 20, planning and zoning.
Good morning, Commissioners. PJ Conover, Pennington County Planning. Just going to get the computer fired up here with our stuff for you. Okay, we're good to go. All right. Item 20, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following items. Item A, vacation of plat 1402 for Sugarland LLC. Staff recommends it be continued to the April 7th Board of Commissioners meeting. Item B, first reading and public hearing of rezone 1501 and comprehensive plan amendment 1501 for Dolores Shervin, DC, Scott Surveyors as the agent, and approval is recommended. Item C, first reading and public hearing of rezone 1412 and comprehensive plan amendment 1409 for Gordon and Carmen Abernathy. Fisk Land Surveying is the agent. Staff recommends it be continued to the April 21st, 2015 Board of Commissioners meeting. Item D, minor plat 1437 and subdivision regulation variance 1419 for George Adrian and Lloyd Hill, and approval is recommended. Item E, plan unit development review 0204 for Deerfield Park condominiums. Staff recommends it be continued to the April 7th, 2015 Board of Commissioners meeting.
Does anyone wish any of the items on the consent agenda removed?
B and D, Bravo and Delta.
B and D, do you wish removed?
Yes.
Any others? If not, do we have a motion? Do we have a motion on the remaining items on the consent agenda, or what is your wish?
Move approval with
Is there a
the
second?
A and D removed.
Second.
Motion and a second.
D, sorry.
Discussion? Roll call?
Buskerud,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Adcock,
Aye.
Troutman,
Sure, yes.
Peterson.
Yes. Motion carried. Item C.
Is it C?
B.
It was
B.
B and D, sorry. I think I said A and D,
Oh,
but I
I'm sorry.
meant B and D, sorry.
I marked the ones off that came
We got
off. Item B, I'm sorry.
Item B is rezone 1501 and comprehensive plan amendment 1501 to rezone 3.477 acres from limited agriculture district to low-density residential, and to amend the Pennington County Comprehensive Plan to change the future land use from suburban residential to low-density residential. Essentially, what you're looking at is on the subject property is a parent parcel of approximately, gotta find out, 73 acres. What they're looking to do is subdivide off just around 3 acres of property from that parent parcel in the subject property. The parcel as it sits today has a single-family residence, was built in 1988, detached garage built in 2005, a calving barn from 1937, feeder barn from 1950, domestic and garden wells, and a septic tank and drain field. The request is, again, to subdivide off just over 3 acres of property. Most of the structures that we just talked about that would be subdivided off the parent parcel would be enclosed within that 3 acres. The only two things that would come off that would remain on the subject property would be the calving barn and the feeder barn. They are allowed on the property without a conditional use permit as they meet the Pennington County zoning ordinance because of the time that they were built, and also as accessory structures for the uses of the land. It was both the rezone and the comp plan amendment were routed through the interdepartmental reviews, and no items of significance were brought up, and staff recommends approval of rezone 1501 and comprehensive plan amendment 1501. And the planning commission approved recommendation as well.
Questions and comments?
Mr. Chair, I asked for this to be pulled for discussion for 2 reasons. One is the zoning, obviously, there's all kinds of spot zoning or whatever out there, limited ag, general ag, suburban residential. The only thing I don't see on there is low-density residential. My concern is this person wanted to take her, I think it's her, 70-some acres and split it off to sell it. In most counties in South Dakota, she could pick off 3 acres as she's done and go register the plat and be done with it. My question is, why do we put the folks in Pennington County through all those hoops? And my question, and I don't want an answer right now, but I'd like to know how many hours we've spent on this process. My second question is we amend the comprehensive plan. And I have a copy here of 2003, which I presume is the newest version. When we say we amend this thing, what physically or what procedurally do we actually do? Do we just make noise, or do we actually amend this future land plan, future land use plan that's in this document? Can you answer that question?
The document itself is not amended at this time. What gets amended is the rapid map, what we appear here, which is the future land use overlay for the map. The document itself has not been amended.
So why do we say we amend this plan? No further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the first reading and public hearing of rezone 1501 and comprehensive plan amendment 1501.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
She's just up for the next item. She's up for the next item.
Okay, we have a roll call.
Buskerud?
Aye.
Farabee?
Yes.
Adcock?
Aye.
Troutman?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes. Motion carried. Next item is item D. I think I got it right this time.
And
Good morning, Brittany Molitor. Item D.
Mr.
is-
Chair, if I might, I pulled this for one reason, and that's because it talks about variance. And since it talks about variance, we ought to be in the Board of Adjustment.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minor plat 1437 and the subdivision regulations variance 1419.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do we need to be in a Board of Adjustment for a variance? No. How come?
It's a different kind of variance.
What? Can you explain? Thank you. Just to make sure that
Not the
I'm-
legal interpretation. Board of Adjustment for zoning variances. This is
Yes.
subdivision regulation variance. In my understanding of it, you don't need to be in Board of Adjustment according to State's Attorney's Office.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion?
And Mr. Chair, I disagree with that interpretation. I don't know.
Mr. Chair, could we please stick to the motion?
Yes, we've addressed the motion, and any further comment? Roll call.
Buskerud?
Aye.
Farabee?
Abstain. Reason being, I don't think this is proper.
Hadcock?
Aye.
Troutman?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Next item is item F.
Okay, item F is the annual MS4 report and the Pennington County Stormwater Plan. Submission is required every year to the state DENR on the progress and updates to our stormwater plan. So I'll just kind of do some background information here just on the public so they know what we're approving here. So what is stormwater runoff? Stormwater runoff is precipitation from rain, snow, melt that flows over the ground. During that time, it picks up debris, chemicals, sediments, and other pollutants, and then it flows into waters of the state, water bodies, untreated. So in 1990, the EPA developed a stormwater rule that was issued in 1999. It requires small urban areas to obtain an NPDES permit, which is a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. It was based on urban areas, and those are determined by 2010, well, ours was determined by the 2010 census data. It basically, the data is like area of concentrated development. and is for areas that have a stormwater delivery system or conveyance system. Those are typically pipes underground, swales, ditches, and other means to deliver stormwater to another water body. And they called these MS4s, which are essentially municipal separate storm sewer systems. The EPA Phase 2 rule requires regulated MS4s, which Pennington County is one, to implement a stormwater management program. In 2002, Pennington County submitted a notice of intent to the EPA to comply with this rule. So what is an MS4? It's a conveyance system that is owned by a public entity, Pennington County, designed to collect and convey stormwater. And there's 3 designated areas in Pennington County, and I'll go over those later. And it's not a combined sewer system, and it's not part of a formal publicly owned treatment system or publicly owned treatment works or sewage treatment facility. So what is the MS4 program requirements? That you apply for and obtain NPDES permit coverage, which Pennington County did in 2002 and was issued an NPDES permit in December of 2002. It was to develop a stormwater management program, and that included 6 minimum measures, and I'll speak to those later. That is a requirement of the Phase 2 rules. It was to implement the program using best management practices. Those best management practices are identified in our stormwater quality manual that was approved in 2011, I believe, by this board. And to develop measurable goals, and we'll go over, those are listed in the plan, and to evaluate the effectiveness of the program, which is our MS4 report that we send to the state every year.
Chair, not to stop Brittany, but if we could continue this till the next meeting, I'd like to go through some of this, so if, in case I do have questions. We just got this, and I don't believe I don't know if the other people have had time, but that way you don't go through all of this and have to do it again.
I'll
if we
second
decide
that motion.
to continue it. I'd like to look through this in case I had any questions. I haven't had time to read it all or look at it. Does that make sense?
Do you have any deadlines that you're?
Actually, the deadline was March 10th, and because of our going in front of the board, because it does require a certifying official signature, we did request to the state to give us an extension till March 20th, so we would have to ask for an extension, essentially, to the DNR.
That was my point.
Is that a problem?
If there is a process for extending this, and if so, if the board wants to carry it forward.
I mean, I can certainly submit if that's the board's wish and for the board's signature on that. I can draft a letter for the chair to sign that requests an extension.
So I could make a motion to continue till then with an extension? Is that a problem?
Your second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
So what are we going to expect Brittany to do next time that she wasn't doing today?
I guess I'd understand it better if I read some of the.
I
Miss
did
Nancy.
read it. I
Okay.
guess I'm a little out of that.
And if there anything that you can share with Brittany in terms of what you might want clarified that ahead of time, that'd be good.
I'll tell her ahead of time, that way she's prepared for what I have. Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Buskerud? Farabee?
Yes.
Troutman?
No.
Adcock?
Aye.
Peterson?
Right. Motion carried. Okay. Items from the chair. I don't have any at this point. Committee reports? Or do I? Did you have a question? You don't. Okay. Committee reports.
Mr. Chair, I just might remind everyone that the Central States Fair annual meeting is this upcoming Monday, the 23rd. Everyone is certainly invited.
Okay. Any other committee reports?
Mr. Chair.
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Any Arizona reports?
No, no, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Farabee?
Ellsworth Task Force, I'm looking for guidance from you four on how I should proceed and on behalf of Pennington County. we've met 3 times now, I guess, counting the time that you were there. We're meeting again here in about an hour and a half, so any guidance or just press on?
I would just add to your comments that there appears to be differences between the two organizations, Ellsworth Task Force and the Ellsworth Authority. And probably the only way for things to be clarified is for more dialogue between the two. And my impression is that Commissioner Farabee has a good enough grasp on things that he just keep going to the meetings, and if there's something at some point that we need to act on, including funding, we'd base that on what you bring forward.
Appreciate that, and thanks. And then one other, this is not a committee at all, but the Rochford Road thing, I shouldn't say that quite that way. The Rochford Road EIS is, as I mentioned last time, is the draft of the draft is out, and the steering committee, Tom isn't here, is he? The steering committee is supposed to get together with the consultant, the HDR, on Friday, and I'm going to hopefully be able to attend and sit in and listen to what the steering committee has to say to the consultant. So here again, the same thing. If you folks, the rest of you four, have any advice for me other than just to press forward with asking questions and trying to, how do I say this, influence the outcome of the EIS. If you have no problem, I'll press on.
Any other comments from the commission relative to this? Not?
Okay.
Keep on keeping on, I guess.
Thanks.
Any other committee reports? If not, items from the public. Does anyone from the public wish to address the commission?
My name is Harold James Marlowe, and I'd like to speak on the Ellsworth Task Force a bit. I'm sure we're all very familiar how important Ellsworth is to Rapid City and Pennington County. I think I'd like to request that you investigate more funding for that group. At the BRAC meeting some years ago, Al Cornella almost single-handedly saved Ellsworth from that BRAC meeting. And his influence carried over to the next meeting because he was asked by the head of the last meeting for some advice, and he advised them to hire a certain individual who was very favorable to Ellsworth and had been on his committee. And I think that somehow we ought to be able to find more funds for that group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Anyone else from the public? If not, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
I would move to go into executive session for contract considerations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Buskerud?
Aye.
Farabee?
Yes.
Hadcock? Aye. Troutman?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes. Motion carried. Who's got the motion in mind?
I move to come out of executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? We need a roll call?
Consistency.
Okay.
Three, call the roll.
Buskerud, no. Hadcock,
Yes.
Troutman,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes. We're out of executive session. Any other motions?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Adcock,
Aye.
Farabee,
Yes.
Troutman, Peterson.
Yep.
You are adjourned.